Hi everyone, welcome to mini lecture 2.3. So after mini lectures 2.1 and 2.2, I think maybe you are tired of hearing from me. So my colleague, Dr. Munaza Iqbal, is going to take point here. Now, in this mini lecture, you will hear about strategies for navigating competition and how we might ensure long-term survival of a venture. Now, as you watch the video, remember that innovation can emerge from anywhere, how you use your resources, how you differentiate, how you capture an opportunity. Think back to the Pestel framework. What is going on in your external environment? What's going on around you? And as a business, what's the most appropriate response to whatever it is that's happening? So I encourage you to take notes throughout the video because we will dive into this in detail during our tutorials. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Dr. Iqbal.
Now, when we talk about new firms in the market, there is an essential element to that, which is competition that they have to face. Now, competition, we need to understand what that is. So competition refers to the situation in which multiple entities or businesses find themselves in when they go in the same market or customer base, or they go for product offerings that are very similar to other businesses. However, it is important to note that competition is a very important element in the business environment, simply because it drives innovation, efficiency, and improvement. Now, to understand and to strategically navigate competition is very important for the entrepreneurial firm and their success. Simply why? Because it encourages adaptability, innovation, and it creates an ability for the firm to space out and carve their way out in the market while providing value to the customers. Now, overall, we can see that competition arises due to many factors, some of which are, a constant drive to change or improve themselves, or it could be from the changing market demands. It could be from the scarcity of the resources, so the limited resources come there, or it could be the entrepreneurial drive for success. Now, talking about that, we need to understand that for an entrepreneurial firm, it is important to create strategies to deal and to compete with other businesses in the market. Now, new entrepreneurial firms can employ any strategies to effectively compete in the market. And in order for an entrepreneurial firm to be effective, developing a core strategy is the first step to sustaining long-term in the market. Now, this core strategy is the central approach, or you can call it a plan that businesses use to achieve their goal. And this is the same for the entrepreneurial firms as well. So the primary, you can call it the primary methods or tactics to guide the company towards a long-term goal or objectives. Now, there are three core strategies that actually determines how a business plan to compete compared to its rivals in the industry. And this is through having a business mission statement. It is also through product and market scope, and it is also through basic having differentiation strategies in place. Now, when we talk about that, it is important to understand these three core elements of the core strategy. Now, what you see in front of you is the business mission statement. Now, to define it, it is basically a very brief, concise declaration that communicates to the readers or to the customers or partners or anyone who is dealing with the business or is to deal with the business an idea about the fundamental purpose of the company or the new firm or the identity of the new firm, the goals of that new entrepreneurial firm as well. So what it does is it basically serves as a guiding principle that outlines the company's reasons for existence and its primary objectives as well. So let's look at an example. And in front of you, you see the very well-known brand, which is called Etsy. Now, this business is basically having a mission statement that says to keep humans connected at the heart of commerce. Now, once you read that, you kind of have an idea of what is it trying to deliver. So Etsy having all about, less automation, more personalization approach, talking about the global marketplace for creative products, and seeking to offer unique items and services to the buyers that you cannot find anywhere else. So connecting the heart of commerce. How it does that, from its mission statement, the company is actually speaking directly to the consumers or anyone who wants to be a part of that organization in terms of partners or anyone else. They are trying to communicate to them about who they are and what they do. Now, going forward, we look at the second core element of the core strategies, which is the product market scope. Now, product market scope refers to specific ranges or extent within which a company operates concerning both the products or the services it offers, which is also called the product or market scope, and the consumers or the market it serves, which is the market scope. So it defines the boundaries of the company's operations, and it helps to clarify its target market and offering. Now, the combination of product and market scope helps in basically defining the company's position in the marketplace. So a company can have a very narrow or broad product scope, and may serve different types of markets depending on the strategy and objectives of that business. So now in this way, it is important and very important, I must say, that to note that new firms typically do not have the resources or the products or multiple products, or they cannot pursue multiple markets at the same time. So in that way, the company should be very clear about the initial product and market scope, and then wait for about 3 to 5 years into the future in terms of anticipated expansion. And talking about that, we can have a look at the example of Dropbox, which you can see just down below. There is a timeline, and from this timeline, I'm going to explain how they expanded. So for example, Dropbox, if you don't know it, it's an online data storage company. So when initially Dropbox was pitching the business idea, a core challenge that they had was to solve a problem that most consumers didn't know that they actually had. For example, the storage facility in the convenience of your home or anywhere without having to carry a USB device or external drive or whatever. But they provided ways for people to transfer their data in an elegant way through cloud storage. Now, if you look at the timeline, and it suggests that when the launch happened, and this was in 2008, there was only a single product that they had, and who they targeted was the Silicon Valley tech-savvy users, and they kept it like this. In the first 1 to 2 years into the existence of this company or the business Dropbox, they had focused on growing the number of consumers, and they had to stick with the initial product that they were offering, while they were continually improving the quality of its online storage services rather than developing any new services. Now, it was only, I think, until 2012 that they added a second product line, which was around 3 years in the existence. In the 3 years of their existence, they had, they had a single product, and what they did was they targeted not only the tech-savvy users, but they expanded it to all computers and internet users. Now, again, going back to the fourth year into existence, which was now going back to 2012, they added a second product line through the acquisition of Snapjoy. So what it did was, it allowed people to upload photos and, videos, archives, and all of that. And then in their sixth year, by the time the company had, via the acquisition of Hackpad, they created real-time, like 3D photo sharing and all of that. So they acquired it and added that to their business, to their business. And then initially in their seventh year, what they did was they basically had an expansion of with 7 products in line. So offering the cloud storage here was the big thing to all consumers and all data users. And what they did was they let go of the mailbox and carousel that they basically acquired in their 5th and 4th year. So by that, what they did was they basically demonstrated that they are continuously evaluating the degree of the success it is achieving in each of the chosen products and each of the chosen markets while they are expanding. Now, moving forward to having core strategies, again, looking at the differentiation of the products or the services that businesses offer. And when we talk about the differentiation, it is very important that the business clearly articulate the points that they're differentiated their products and services with in terms of displaying it for their competitors. Now, this is what the scholars refer to as the company value proposition as well. So what are you selling, and why is it different, why is it unique? So making certain that your points of differentiation refer to the benefits rather than features of the product or services that you're offering. Now, having to said that there are different kind of strategies which businesses usually use to differentiate, and the first one is the core cost leadership strategy. And if we look at the cost leadership strategy, we understand that people are trying to, or businesses are trying to lower the cost of the products within an industry or market segment, and their aim is to provide the product or services at the lowest cost possible while remaining profitable. Now, what they do is they basically or if you look at an example of it, retail giants like Costco is pursuing this strategy. So they're offering products at lower price compared to their competitors. On the other hand, we have differentiation strategy, which is your product and service differentiation. In this, the businesses usually focus on a unique or a distinct product or a service that stands out in the market. So provide something that customers perceive as different or better than offering from the competitors. As an example of this, you can take brands like Apple, known for its innovative products, design, luxury. Brands like Rolex, you can take an example of that as well, offering unique and high quality products. On the other hand, if you see in front of you is a child with a backpack, and it's very distraught because of the weight of the bag. And why I picked that is because I want to associate that with the brand Zuka. Now, Zuka backpacks, and when this was created, it was created when the owner of the owner of Zuka brand had a complaint from their daughter that their back hurts. So for example, now looking at that, Laura Udall, who was the owner, she basically advertised the products with their benefits rather than the features. So distinct points of differentiations were, it relieves back pain by putting, the backpack on rollers, and it's sturdy enough to, bear the weight of the child or adult if they sit on it. So she could have focused on the features of the product. So for example, she could have simply said, you know, you can pull it like a suitcase rather than wearing it back on your back, and you know, it's a aluminium frame which is very sturdy, blah blah blah. But she decided to do it on the benefits, you know, as I explained earlier, which is basically more appealing. And this is why the emphasis is on the differentiation, you know, having to have it on the benefits rather than the features as well. If features, just so you can make it more appealing to the consumers or the customers. And so when we talk about the new firm sustainability, it means we are talking about the long-term survival of an entrepreneurial firm. And in order for a firm or entrepreneurial firm to survive longer in the market or in the industry, they need to have a framework in place which covers not only the strategic resources or the elements of it, but also the partnership networks and customer interface. Right, so talking about the long-term survival of an entrepreneurial firm, it is important to see what kind of resources that they have or they possess in order to compete in the market. So strategic resources, or they basically in a business context simply refers to any key assets or capabilities or elements that provide a competitive advantage, and therefore they are very crucial for the entrepreneurial firms to achieve strategic goals and objectives in the long run. So when we talk about key strategic resources, it is important to understand the types of it. So there are two types of it: tangible resources and intangible resources. So tangible resources are basically physical resources that can be touched, seen, or quantified. So they have a physical presence, whereas the intangible resources are those resources which lack any presence, and therefore they cannot be touched, but they do provide a substantial value to the company. Now, when we talk about this, we have a question in our mind, you know, what does that mean? So let's take an example of Uber in terms of tangible resources. The tangible resource for Uber is their number of drivers. For any business to come and compete against Uber, it is near to impossible for them to have the number of drivers that they have at the moment. For example, they have around more than 300,000 active drivers working for Uber. So in order for a competitor to come and compete with Uber, it is nearly impossible to have that many number of drivers. And when even you look at the substitutes or you know, any alternatives, there are no alternatives, or there will be no alternatives for any starting company to have that many number of rides completed by which have been completed by Ubers through more than 300,000 drivers, or what they have completed. On the other hand, for the intangible resources, we have Zappos. It is a good example because Zappos has a reputation for customer service. It is consistently viewed, you know, very favorably, basically, for its ability to deliver a high level of customer service that is both difficult to imitate and for which a substitute is difficult to find as well. So in that way, you know, when you are completing your business model canvas, and we go back to that again, you might have your current resources put in place, but it is important to anticipate for the future resources you have, because once you are achieving your you know, you're progressing into the years, you will be able to completely acquire the resources that you look for in the long run. Just so if we look back to the example of Uber, you know, they might have, you know, when they started, they would have had, you know, God knows, 500 or 5,000, you know, drivers employed working for Uber. But now they have 300,000. So at that time, they must have a number in place to, you know, show what will they look like in the future, like 3 to 5 years. So having said that, let's move ahead. Right, at the basic level, a firm must have a sufficient number of resources available to enable that firm to work or to have the business model to work at all. So, for example, a firm may have, a patent or may need a patent, which is a key asset to protect its basis of differentiation. And we have already looked at key assets. That's one of them. And when we talk about, or there is another, resource that they can use. So they may need an expertise in certain area, which is basically called the core competency, which is in place to understand the needs of the target market. So at a deeper level, and you can see it on the slides as well, at the deeper level, a firm's most important resource, both tangible and intangible, must be difficult to imitate as well as hard to find in order for them to succeed in the long run. So a core competency, if we look at here, can largely determine what it can do, or the organization or the new entrepreneurial firm can do. For example, many firms sell physical products, do not manufacture their own products because manufacturing is not a core competency. Instead, their core competency might be in the area of, for example, product design or marketing or something else. Whereas, when we talk about the key assets, we refer to any primary resources or valuable elements that a company owns or they manage. So why do we need that? Is because we need to enhance the overall value that we provide to the customers through the business model that we have. Now, these assets are basically instrumental in the company's ability to generate any revenue, to maintain their competitiveness, and to achieve their strategic goals. Now, the key idea here is that in order to be effective or competitive, your business or a new firm must be particularly good at certain things, and those certain things must be supportive of all elements of the business model that you have identified. Now, when we talk about that, these core competencies and these key assets, provide a competitive edge, which means that, they allow new firms to differentiate themselves in the market compared to other rivals or existing rivals. Whether it's unique technology, innovation process, specialized expertise, these assets and core competencies can set new firms apart from its competitors. On the other hand, we have, growth and sustainability. So, long run sustainability of the organization or the new entrepreneurial firm is actually dependent on its key assets and core competence, simply because it helps to scale the operations, expand the offering, and also move into new markets. It also helps with the future and direction, and with that we mean that identifying core competencies and key assets will help you to concentrate your efforts on the resources and what they can do best, and it would basically guide your strategic decision or the planning that you have in place towards your business direction. Now, new entrepreneurial firms must recognize these and nurture these and leverage upon these competencies and key assets and establish a very strong, in order to establish a very strong market presence and create value for the customers and to ensure the long run success or long term success of that new business in the industry. Now, moving further ahead from that, we look at the key partnerships. Now, startups or new entrepreneurial firms in particular do not have sufficient resources, and we know that sufficient resources or funding or or assets to perform all the tasks that are needed to make the business model work. So what they do rely on partners to help perform the very key roles that they are not able to fulfill by themselves. Now, in most cases, businesses do not want to do everything by themselves because, you know, they need to build the product, deliver the service. These are, you know, outside the business core competence or area of expertise. So what most businesses typically do is they establish their internal partnerships, for example, with suppliers, and external partnerships with the partners that are available to, you know, complete the task. So when we talk about the suppliers, we talk about maybe vendors or manufacturers or anyone who can provide the goods or the materials. But on the other hand, you know, we have you know, the partners. The partners are critical because they provide, you know, resource access. These can be anyone who is working outside the business, you know, can provide you with expertise. They can help you move in the new market. They can help you, you know, reduce the risk. They can even help you to innovate and growth. And these partners can be financial partners or yeah, they can be potentially you know, financial partners as well. Now, when we talk about that, we have other key relationships as well, which are basically with technology partners. It can be with distributors, it can be with the producers of the product, any investors, any professional services providers for your legal issues or to set up, you know, legal side of the business. Or maybe you can have, you know, marketing and networking and industry associations as well. So you join these networks in order to get valuable connections as well. So all of these partners basically, or suppliers, so these are also called inbound and outbound, or insourcing or outsourcing as well. So these are very important for the new entrepreneurial firms. To have them in place makes the business run very smoothly in the long run. Right, so moving away from that, another core element to make the business model work is basically the customer interface. This is basically the point of interaction between the customer and the business for the products and services that a business is offering. So customer interface basically plays a very significant role in shaping the customer satisfaction, loyalty, overall brand perception as well. So businesses basically focus on, you know, leveraging on this interface to ensure that there is a seamless, positive experience for all customers across all touch points. Now, the customer interface is basically critical in shaping the customer's experience and perception of the brand, and it can include you know, various channels, for example, physical spaces, you know, service centers or the stores or the location where the customer is going to directly engage with the you know, with the people from the entrepreneurial firm. It can be digital platforms such as the websites, mobile apps, you know, social media, emails, chat interfaces, etc. And then it can also be, you know, customer service support, where, you know, customers are seeking assistance, inquiring about the products and complaints, also lodging them. And it can also be sales and marketing touch points, where a customer can come and, you know, talk about the marketing efforts, sale offers, or they can inquire about you know, product information, make purchasing decisions as well. On the other hand, it can also be you know, product usage experience, you know, the interaction between experienced customer while they use the company's products or services. How it impacts the perception and satisfaction also matters. So when we talk about customer interface, it is important to understand few questions. So understanding the market, so who is your target? Who is your target market? So are you having a unique product that is for a niche market, or you're having a product that is available to all the people? So who are they, and how do you support and fulfill their demands of the target market. So what are the touch points basically? So how are you going to support them, for example, in terms of installing or finalizing a product or assembling a product? How are you going to do that? So all of the operations that I mentioned earlier as well. So how do you change your customers charge your customers for the services or products that you offer? So what are the things in place? So is there, are they going to interact with maybe a third party transaction dealer, or how are you going to make them interact with your business, and how are you going to charge? So thinking about the pricing of it. So are you going to price it? Thinking about also if you are going to price it for niche products, or you're going to offer it with a lower cost. So what is your differentiation strategy here as well in terms of pricing? And you need to specify that as well. Having discussed all the framework elements and trying to understand each of the elements, in detail, we need to also understand that for a new entrepreneurial firm, they need to internationalize at some point as well. So when they are expanding into a different market, it is important for the new entrepreneurial firm or the people who are running that firm to conduct a SWOT analysis. Now, a SWOT analysis is basically looking at the strengths, weaknesses, and threats of the organization, or what they face, and the opportunities that they have to, leverage upon and to move into a different, different context, or expand globally. Now, when you're trying to expand, you look at, it's there in the diagram as well as it's there in writing as well. So you need to think about what are the, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. So strengths basically are basically your core competencies on which you build your business model. So what is unique about you? What are the assets that you have that you can use to achieve the competitive advantage in the global market? Or do you have any innovative products? Do you have a strong brand reputation? Do you have a strong customer base? Do you have, cutting edge technology in place that you're using? So what is it about your business that becomes the strength of your business, and when you move into an international market is going to provide you benefits? Now, looking at the weaknesses, you think about, any internal limitations that might restrict you from expansion. It can be your scarcity of resources, or your limit of resources that you're having. It could be the cultural barriers, or operational insufficiencies. For example, you do not have a good supply chain in place, you do not have a good distribution channel in place. It could be that the country that you're moving in is very different to where you currently operate. So how do you adapt to that? So these become your weaknesses. In order to understand the opportunities and the threats, the opportunities would then talk about the potential markets where your strengths aligns with the demands. And when I say this, it means that what are the gaps that are available in the market that you can fill. And you think about that and you list them down and think about the trends that you can capitalize on, so you can leverage on that. So what is it that you can have that you can use against your competitors and compete at a higher pace. On the other hand, you have the threats, which basically consider all the external factors or challenges that may, restrict you or stop you from, your successful expansion. For example, is there a high market competition? You need to think about, the regulatory barriers, for example, the trade barriers. So are there any, restrictions in place? Can you successfully lead your distribution channel? Or you can also think about the economic uncertainties. Is the For example, is the inflation or the interest rate really high? So is it going to impact your transactions? How do you capitalize on that? And then you have to think about, the target market that you're working on. Is that available? And you need to think about that in terms of the uncertainty. Are they going to be affording your products and services like you have the affordability in place for the target consumers in your home country? So what is it that becomes a threat for you, or that becomes a challenge for your business that you can then address and successfully move to international market? So discussing that, I will now take a leave